Nam Soon, your report talks about technology posing the biggest challenge the industry has ever seen in its history. I'm wondering, to what extent are the institutions aware of the scope of that challenge, and how ready are they to face it?
Well, Timo, the institutions are definitely well aware of the challenge, and because it's front and center for them. Everybody's aware of the opportunities and the value creation that comes with digital transformation, but equally there's a lot of confusion and hype in the industry in terms of the relevant application of digital transformation, and ultimately how would it help with the business.
And this report that you've put out, what are the key factors that it highlights as being what these institutions should focus on?
What our report is different from some of the others in the marketplace is it focuses primarily on the challenges in risk management and compliance, and it's really about execution, how to be successful in rolling out a bank or digital institute platform. And there are a number of highlights from the report. First and foremost, it's really important that we found in our work that there's a strong focus on monetizing the digital platform, that it doesn't just become another cost to serve, and so moving it away from purely a cost center to something that allows the institution to actually get new revenue, acquire new customers, build a brand. That's really important, a key consideration.
Because for a lot of institutions, technology basically means more expense on hardware, on software, on retraining, on new processes. How do you turn that into a revenue stream?
Understanding the customer is really important, and I think a lot of times, the quick and easy way to do this is to put a web front end or iPad application. That's a Me Too solution that doesn't really help the institution differentiate itself against competition. Really spending the time to understand the customer, their customers, exactly what's required, and doing methods like user journeys, voice of customer, and we as a firm have done a lot of work in this space, and that would really help to get a clearer idea of what the customers really want, and therefore put something that is relevant, that is important, and it's meaningful for their customers.
The report talks about the biggest change in the industry's history, but I'm wondering, how has that become apparent in the way the institutions behave?
It's really interesting, and we see all of the institutions recognize that they have to move digital, because being analog is not an option.
Are they all doing it at the same pace?
And clearly they're doing it in very different paces. There's two ends of continuum. There are institutions that are much more forward-looking. They have figured out in terms of their strategy. And it's really not just about technology. It's about the organization, the enterprise culture that has to come with it in terms of rolling out digital offerings, which tend to be very quick time to market, making sure that the pipes are actually in place in terms of having the right data, being able to extract the right customer and transaction data from the organization itself, all of which pose significant challenges for many clients.
And all of them are recognizing they need to change their development approach.
And everyone, this is a topic which has been in place for a number of years now. So people know they have to do it, but perhaps they're not so clear on how it should be done. And some of the bigger players have made investments in infrastructure, in people and training and so forth. It comes with all of that, and do it better. But equally, many others are still at the start line, trying to figure out, they know they have to go digital, but what are the next steps they need to take to put in place something that is meaningful?
To what extent are they doing this individually by looking inward, and to what extent are some of them doing it by looking outward, engaging with other people and institutions in that ecosystem?
I think there's a common consensus that people need to collaborate, because not one party has all the answers or all the solutions. And therein lies part of the problem, because who do you collaborate with? And there's a multitude of players. Does it fit? Is a solution right for their customers? Does it fit not just from a platform perspective, from culturally? Is a solution fit for purpose for the companies concerned? And so people understand they need to collaborate, but then the question will be, who do they collaborate with, and what solutions do they partner with?
Because I'm sure there's plenty of people offering solutions, not all of them necessarily probably the right ones.
A number of which have now come to light that don't work. And so there's a fair amount of hype, particularly in the FinTech industry, for example. And in recent times, we've seen examples of either failures due to fraud, or even they run out of funding and or the solution, it just doesn't, no customers will pick up on it. So being able to clearly identify the right fit to the customers and to the organization is absolutely key.
Up until now, what do you think has been the biggest problem that the institutions have seen? What do most of them regard as being the most difficult obstacle?
I think it's twofold. One is in terms of getting a real commitment from leadership and from the organization itself, the people who will be delivering the digital solution, that this is real, because digital is more than just a front end. It's not just putting an iPad out there. It's actually making sure that the customer interaction is digital all the way from front all the way through to back. And that requires the CEO and his C-suite to be committed in terms of a program. Committed because these programs tend not to be cheap, particularly if you do it right and you do it not just as a point solution, but something that cuts across the entire organization. And so it involves investments which are of order magnitude, which it could be difficult to justify, particularly in today's economic climate.
And it seems that most of these organizations are looking at what could potentially be a huge bill. At what point does that start to pay dividends? At what point can they actually make money from having made the change?
Well, it's interesting. I think some of the leading players have started to monetize some of the digital platforms, and it has to be a strong correlation in terms of the deployment of the digital platform and the number of customers, and ultimately whether there's increase in AUM, for example, that comes with the digital platform. But others are still on a long journey, and they go through a series of iterative deployments that either don't lend itself very clearly to where it's all headed, and so they spend a lot of money, but the board is still asking, well, where's the uplift in revenue? Is this happening? Is this just another cost center to us now?
Right. But okay, so let me ask it a different way. I mean, you've put here, ensure a holistic cultural evolution. What do you mean by that?
Well, so a lot of times when digital projects are implemented, they tend to be point solutions. Let's put in a mobile solution for wealth management, but it ignores the branding that has to come with it, because it's more than just a platform. It ignores the advertising and promotion and the pricing that has to come with it. It would be really useful if you have the head of wealth management come and promote it. And how does this wealth digital platform, if you like, fit in the overall scheme of things in terms of the organization as a whole being digital? And that's what we mean in the report, that organizations need to truly benefit, to truly reap the benefit of digitalization. There's a need to move digital from just point solutions to something that pervades across the entire organization. And that's where you need cultural change. And that's where you need something that doesn't just sit in the business unit, but is driven by the CEO, and the entire organization speaks digital. And the transaction support that comes with it and the processing support actually lends itself, pervades across the entire organization. That requires everybody to think digital.
How much are we seeing that happen? I mean, to what extent do CEOs actually understand that the whole is the necessary strategy rather than piecemeal elements of individual sections?
I think CEOs all recognize they have to brand their companies or their firms as being digital. But to make the entire organization digital requires a lot of investments and takes time. And so it would be fair to say that the leading players, definitely the CEOs, they understand it needs to be done. And it's a journey. But there are others which are a bit further behind and still very much trying to figure out how should they take this next step forward. And so that there is a difference in terms of attitude and adoption.